Hi and welcome to the Resources Roadhouse. I'm Wally Graham. I'm at the RIU Resurgence conference in Perth, and I've just had a very interesting conversation with Vance Constantine. Now, Vance works for SGS and they do all the assaying for all the companies when they finish doing their drilling. They've got the core, they send it off, they want to find out what's there. Something that's always fascinated me. So Vance, he's been able to give me a little bit more insight as to what happens. Vance, welcome to the Roadhouse. It's good to see you.
Thanks very much for having me, mate.
Okay, so SGS, what do you do?
Well, we're a testing, inspection, certification company. We've been around since the late 1800s, where we initially started, surveying cargoes of grain in France. These days, it's more of a case of what aren't we into. We're in minerals and mining, we're in environmental chemistry, oil and gas. We do quality accreditations on people's systems and processes. We may do verifications on hotels, day spas. We calibrate speed cameras, as much as that's not very palatable. You know, there's not much that we're not into somewhere along the way.
All right, so as far as this conference goes, you're here in what capacity?
Mostly here in a minerals and mining focus. So, my role is a mineral sales executive. So, principally I'm looking after Western Australia. But of course, SGS is a global company, about 95,000 people, 2,500 offices, about 150 countries. So, you know, we're a truly global company.
All right, so when the companies have done their drilling and they've got their core and they need it assayed, are you the people they send it to?
Quite often, yes, absolutely. We've got a pretty big presence in WA. Last count, I think we've got about 4 or 5 on-site labs. We've got 2 commercial laboratories in Perth and Kalgoorlie. Those commercial labs, Kalgoorlie is mostly a gold production laboratory, but Perth, can pretty much cater to anything and everything. Be it nickel, be it gold, be it rare earths. We've got a proprietary exploration technique called MMI, so we'll be doing that as well. There's not much that Perth can't handle, and if they can't handle it, we can reach out to the global team.
All right, well that's good. So now let's move into the space of the companies involved here, because I speak to a lot of companies and they say, okay, we want to release some assay results, but we can't get them back from the lab. This must mean that you guys are very, very busy.
Absolutely. We're under a lot of pressure to get assays out. Certainly in Perth, there are multiple commodities, there are multiple techniques that we're trying to focus on. So there's multiple companies involved. Trying to string all of this together in any one time can be really challenging. You may have somebody that's got a gold focus, but then part of their drilling in the bottom of the hole, they may want some base metals analysis. So you've got to cobble those things together and try and get it out in a suitable time frame. So it can be really challenging to do that, particularly still in this environment. I know we're post-pandemic, but there are still labour constraints, there are supply chain issues. We're struggling. And we're no different than any other facility in that, we're doing the best that we can. But I think we're doing it better, because one thing that we do is, we speak to our clients. We communicate with them quite a lot, and we're very open about the challenges that we face. We ask for as much information as we can get from our clients so that we can appropriately schedule the work and we can manage expectations. And I think that's one thing we do pretty well.
All right. So, being a humble journo who doesn't know a lot about this sort of stuff, so if I've got a particular commodity that I want assayed in my core, so if I'm looking for gold, is it a different assaying technique if I say I'm looking for nickel?
Absolutely. Nickel, you might be determining it by XRF technologies. If it's nickel sulfide, for example, it's probably going to be ICP technologies. So the different techniques, because you're looking for different elements and different detection limits. So because of that, you've got different requirements. Now, that's where this whole turnaround thing comes in again, because clients' scopes of work quite often change. And at some point in time, they may not even know fully what their scope of work is until we sit down and have that conversation with our client and say, well, what is it that you actually want? What are you hoping to achieve out of this? Because when you sit down and you have that conversation, you flesh out their requirements, which means you can better manage those expectations. And quite often there becomes multiple techniques involved, which means you've then got to string those techniques together to get a full process which can take longer than you would expect if it was just a small part.
That sort of answers my next question a little bit, because you read some announcements and a company will say, oh, we resubmitted core to be tested because we wanted to see if we had this. And I often think, well, why don't you just put the core in and get it tested for everything to see what's there? But obviously it's
not always the case.
No.
For example, if you've got a nickel company, or primarily your focus is on nickel, quite often you're going to get platinoids or precious gold, precious elements that are associated with that. So all of a sudden you may decide, oh, I wanted to go and do platinum, palladium, and see if there's any gold associated with it as well. It's a different technique, which means you've got to go back, re-assay it again, which takes more time. You've got to pull those samples out of storage, go and do what you need to do again.
And go to the back of the queue.
And then, well, not always. It depends upon the project and how many samples you're submitting. If you tell me you've got 10 samples, I can probably squeeze that in with other work. You tell me you want to go and re-assay 2,000 samples, yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah.
We've got to sit down and have a conversation around that again. It's not something where we can just drop everything, throw everybody's work to the side and slot you in.
Oh, well, they do say, there's a bit the old saying that the people who make the money in the booms are not the people who are digging the holes, but the ones who are selling the shovels and helping them dig the holes. And so, would you put yourself in that sort of a?
No, I wouldn't. Margins in the lab game are pretty tight. Quite often, in terms of the chemistry part of it, the laboratory part of it, we're the last, cab off the rank, if you want to call it that. It wouldn't be the first time that a customer has designed their whole mine site, got the plans for their plans and all the rest of it, and then gone, oh, what about the lab? So quite often, I'm not going to say we're an afterthought because we're not, but quite often we're not, first priority. We do the best that we can. We are very accommodating. A good thing about SGS is, we're very mobile and flexible. We're a very boutique, bespoken sort of outfit. We can react very quickly. I can tell you of a situation where I've been asked to set up an on-site laboratory and been given 3 days notice. Where I've had to walk in, somebody else has been told to pack their bags and leave, and we've got to set up operations and be operational in 3 days. And we've managed to do that. That's something we can do. We can move hell and high earth when we have to. I wouldn't say it's a lot of fun, but it can be done. Again, it's different strokes for different folks. We can accommodate urgent requests. We try and do the best thing we can with people that are quite happy to sit at the back of the queue too, and try and give them a competitive service. So it depends on what you want.
Well, we've had discussions at plenty of conferences because you're always at the conferences. And it does seem to me like you're an important link in the chain. That you're a very necessary sort of part of the industry, because these guys won't know what they've got in the ground unless you can tell them. It's
a technical services partnership. You've got to have that relationship with your client. They've got to trust you that you're producing the assays that then advance their project, because it allows them to go to the next stage, whether that be from exploration into feasibility study to get sign off on their finance, to then go into construction and push the button and go. There are steps along the way, and we're an important part of that. And one of the things SGS does is that we can accommodate every facet of the life cycle of a project, from inception to mine closure. And not only on the mineral side of things either, but on the ancillary stuff. The environmental testing that goes along with that, the mine remediation stuff at the end when they're closing down, they've got to test for acid mine drainage. We can do all of this stuff and everything in between. We can help with the metallurgy, we can help with things like mechanical sampling systems to put on their plan, so they've got the sampling points to be able to get the samples to give us to do the assays. There's not much we can't accommodate.
Vance, you're a very, very busy man. All right, look, I've been wanting to do this interview with you for quite some time, and I'm glad that we finally got it out of the way, because I think our readers and viewers really should know about what you do, and then they can also hear, well, the assays haven't come back, well, this is why. And now they can gain a better understanding of that, which is good for everybody involved, I think.
Look, always happy to accommodate a conversation. At the end of the day, we're about managing client expectations. Come and sit down and talk to us, and we'll see what we can do for you.
No worries. All right, Vance, thanks very much.
Look, thanks very much for the opportunity, Wally. Good to talk to you, mate.